Okay. Welcome and thank you for being on Blacklight on Sports. My name is Charles Hallman.
I'm Mitchell Palmer McDonald.
Tonight we have Travis Singleton. It's a young man who has started his own media company and he moved from Boston to Minnesota. I got a chance to meet with him early this season. He's covering the Timberwolves. He's covered many sports, and we want him to come and talk about just starting a black media company because that's something that's unique, and especially when you go away from where you grew up at to run your company. So, Travis Singleton, welcome to our show.
Appreciate you guys for having me. Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Honestly, it starts. It always starts at the beginning, and I stayed true to my roots. And I used to work for this company called BlackAthlete.net, and they were based out of New Jersey. And I ended up. It's a long story, but I ended up running into somebody when I was working at Walgreens. And he used to always come in and want to grab a Arizona iced tea, and we would sit there and talk basketball, and then he would leave. And I didn't think nothing of it. I'm just a very humble person, just know how to network, and went to a game with a couple of my buddies. We went, matter of fact, the Detroit Pistons versus the Celtics back in 2007, the Eastern Conference Finals,
Hmm.
and we got seats all the way at the top. So pregame, you get to go all the way down, and take pictures.
Mhm.
So when I went down pregame, I saw the gentleman the iced tea. So I'm like, "What you doing?" He said, "What you mean?" I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm working." I said, "Well, you never told me you work with the Celtics." He said, "You never asked." So so then we got in contact, and his name was Stephen Alford. I owe a lot to him, and still talk to him to this day. And he was working for BlackAthlete.net at the time, and then he was grooming me to take his spot. And sometimes, in order for us to, grow as African Americans in this country, we definitely got to support each other. And I think that was the biggest thing for me was just knowing that somebody looked at what I was doing and saw the vision that I had and the path that I could go on, just being a young man that's humble, trying to do the right thing. And he placed that opportunity in my hands. So I just kind of took it and ran with it. And it's a product of who I am today. Roland Rogers was the owner. He passed away. But there's so many great writers that are still over there with BlackAthlete.net and they're still doing great things. And I owe a lot to them, And if it wasn't for them, Mr. Michael Ingram, Stephen Alford, a lot of those guys, I wouldn't be sitting here right now with you.
What prompted you to start your own business?
For me, it was just more so, I like challenges, and one thing about, being being an African American in this country, you're gonna get challenged. So it was just for me, it was just big on just making sure that I was able to tell my own story. As African Americans, we want to tell our own story as far as, being black athletes. We want those players to come to us to get that scoop sometimes because we understand them, we relate to them. So for me, it was like, how can I get people to relate to me? I like wearing sneakers. I like being able to talk to the players. I'm relatable to the players. So how can I create a platform where I can share my interests with the players and vice versa? So when I brought that together, that's how that ended up just coming together. And a lot of the reporters in the Celtics locker room are like, you're wearing a suit and tie combination all the time, like, but we see on social media, you like to wear, casual wear, hoodies or different things, and you're wearing sneakers as well. So they was like, why don't you just be yourself? You're 19, 20 years old. You ain't got to dress like you're 35,
Hmm.
So I was just like, hey, all right, I'm gonna do my own thing. So that's kind of how it started. And like any business, you're scared in the beginning. There was times where I wasn't getting credentialed,
Hmm.
and it took a lot. It took a lot, man. A lot of prayer. Call my mom, my sister. Just talking to them. Just to get that clarification, that reassurance that I can do this. So I started out with Black Athlete, went to OKC and started with Black Athlete, and then when I got comfortable within the team with the Thunder, that's when I was like, okay, I feel confident and comfortable within myself to let me try to branch out and do my own thing now. So
Was
that's when it happened.
was there ever a time when you either before you started or made your decision to go into business for yourself, or during the time that you were struggling,
Yeah.
did you ever think of applying for a mainstream media job at a major newspaper or anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. I've always once Roland passed away, the owner, that was kind of where I didn't know where to go, right? And I start questioning, how can I do my own thing? I'm trying to pick people's brains. I'm trying to figure it out. A lot of prayer, a lot of talking to my mom, my sister, just trying to figure out, what's the next avenue, because I'm like, I do like what the mainstream people are doing, like the Stephen A's and those guys,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, I also wanted to stay true to my roots. And I also knew that, like, if I grew it up from the ground up,
Mm-hmm.
then I can run it the way I want. And I know that with a lot of mainstream, they got, producers, they got different people that put your whole presentation, what you're going to talk about, they got everything laid out for you.
Right.
And it's kind of like I didn't want to be a puppeteer, not saying that they are, but I just didn't want a lot of people that were telling me what I wanted to talk about when I knew I had a vision on what I wanted to talk about, what I wanted to do, the plan I had, and I just knew how if I can figure it out, I would implement it the way I wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was it like? And tell us how it was like to cover OKC
Mm-hmm.
and cover Boston,
Yeah.
and now you're covering the Minnesota Timberwolves. If there's any similarities, differences
Yeah.
in covering those three teams.
I mean, honestly, Boston's where I'm from, so that's just the hometown. So anytime I need anything there, they're gonna take care of me. I love that team to death. I love the organization to death. They got Jeff Twist over there. I think he recently retired, but they got Brian Olive. He's an amazing person with the PR staff there. They got a lot of people over there that I really respect, and they didn't judge me for who I was. You know what I'm saying? Like they let me come in and be me. And that was one of the things that I really enjoyed and truly loved about going home. Anytime I go home, even when I went with the Timberwolves, when I go there, I still got the same people there, and that respect is there. I think it's all about respect. If people respect what you're doing and respect, the fact that you're working as hard as you are on your craft, I think they're always gonna, appreciate what you do for them too. Because at the end of the day, you're giving them something and they're giving you something.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When it comes to access. So Boston's always home, and that's a big part of who I am. When I went to OKC, I finally was able to grow into who I am today. I found my niche. And a lot of people don't really find that, that early. I think I was 24 years old when I went to OKC. So OKC, Matt Tumbleson, John Reed, those two guys, man, Michael Ravina, these are people that really on their PR staff that believed in my vision. We would sit down day one and talk about it. Hey, what's your goals for Sneaker Reporter this year? And that was something that meant a lot to me. Like you don't have teams coming over to you and talking about what's your plans, what's your goals, what are you trying to achieve this year, and that meant a lot to me, And I was out there from 2014 to 2020, so just they let me be me, and I grew into who I am today. I was able to get a lot of one-on-one access, and I was just able to grow into the person that I am today, as far as a person that they can look to for professionalism, stories, sneaker news. It was kind of like I was able to do everything I wanted in one, where I didn't feel like I had to be like, all right, I'm just a number. I'm not a name, And in Boston, that was one of the reasons why I left, because I felt like everybody's doing the same thing. How am I going to stand out? So when I went to OKC, I found that, and then transitioning here, uh, Sarah, like I told you guys, Sarah was huge for me coming to Minnesota. I mean, I saw that Rudy Gobert trade from afar, and I just knew that like this team has what it takes,
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the trajectory for Anthony Edwards too. So I just reached out, and this was right after everything that happened out here with the George Floyd stuff, and I did a lot of research. Shed a lot of tears on that moment too. Just you guys being from here, I know that that's impactful,
Mm-hmm.
and I just was like, you know what, I got to talk to my pastor. I talked to my family. I talked to everybody about the decision before I came here. But Sarah reassured me, some confidence and comfort, just coming this way. So I already knew that once I got here, like, I was gonna have some security as far as just being comfortable with somebody on the PR staff. But then when I met everybody else, from Aaron and Derek and those guys, like it just felt like, Minnesota was home, and I felt like I was at a point where I could be myself. My family knows I'm good. I know they're good. And, I feel like this is somewhere where I could really flourish and be able to take my, my brand and my name to the next level. I'm getting on TV now. That's a blessing in itself. So many different opportunities are coming now. And, just to be a young African American in this country and to be able to have my own brand and my own media outlet and to get credentialed for certain stuff, it's a blessing and a dream come true.
Now, talk a little bit about the sneakers,
Yeah.
because we all know, particularly in our culture, man, shoes are
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah. Yep.
And everyone, particularly in the Black community,
Yeah.
we look at what's on your feet.
There you go.
When we see, particularly when we're younger too.
Yes, sir.
But how does that play in? I mean, the sneaker part. Everyone's not doing that.
Yeah.
So what made you think to kind of get to that, and what is that all about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a sneakerhead, so like a sneakerhead is just somebody that just goes out and buy sneakers. I mean, I was working at Walgreens. My whole check would be gone by Saturday. Look, there was three pairs of Jordans to come out. That Saturday, I bought all three. It didn't matter what size. It didn't matter. I was getting them, and it rubs off on my sister. She's a sneakerhead now. So, for me, it was just one of those situations where I'm like, okay, I'm already a sneakerhead. I know the culture. I know us. I know us as people. You know what I'm saying? I know what we gravitate towards, and who's predominantly in the NBA,
Right. Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So if it's all of us, there's nothing but brothers in there. So sneakers is culture, and when you bring the culture to the game, that's how the sneaker reporter meshes, and that was one of my things. I was like, if I'm wearing sneakers in the locker room, I'm standing out. If I'm wearing, some dress shoes and everybody else got dress shoes, how am I going to stand out? But that conversation that we're going to have about sneakers, oh man, look what you got on. That's open dialogue with a player.
Yes.
Now I don't have to go to you for the one-on-one. We're engaging in the one-on-one. So now I can talk to you without the PR people coming and everybody saying, hey, you can't do that. Now that if the player is engaging with you, it's fair play. You see what I'm saying? So you don't gotta wait for that one-on-one, Mr. Charles. You know what I'm saying? You just go ahead and get it. So that's just how I see it. But honestly, that's how I was able to do it, was just be myself. And everybody knows me. They know I'm the sneaker guy back at home. Oh yeah, you got the sneakers, da da da. So it's like, why not be the sneaker reporter? People are gonna think I'm talking about sneakers, but I'm a reporter wearing sneakers. I got a job to do, and a lot of people forget about that. They're like, oh yeah, he's just gonna talk sneakers. No, I'm not. Let's talk about the game. Let's talk about how many field goals this guy got, how many assists this guy got. Oh, let's talk about the triple doubles. Let's do this. All right, let's talk about it. But they always want to pinpoint you to that one thing. Oh, sneakers. And I try to tell people I could talk sneakers all day, but I'm here for a job. And when they realize that professionalism, then that's when people really respect you.
Yeah. Was there any time when you was afraid that you would be typecast in such a way that you would be inhibited to doing what you want to do?
Honestly, not really. I think the biggest thing for me was like, okay, everybody's gonna look at me funny, right? They're gonna be like, okay, here go this sneaker guy. We can't take him serious. And I felt like in the beginning, a lot of people didn't take me serious, but as the brand started growing, a lot of people were like, okay, you know what? He's really out here. He's doing the sneaker stuff. He's doing reporting. He's doing interviews. My main thing is I always tell people my main focus and my main like drive and like ambition and just motivation is just to make sure that my family can hear me. Right? So every time I do an interview, I want to make sure my mom and my sister can hear me from wherever they're at. Okay, we're on national TV now. I want to make sure my mom hear me, before she go to bed. So that's kind of like my motivation and drive is like, let's keep that going. But for me, like I said, I felt like a lot of people didn't take me serious in the beginning because they're like, oh, he's wearing all these different sneakers. He's just trying to put on a fashion show probably. But at the end of the day, like being that black athlete, that taught me how to be a professional, taught me how to be a reporter, taught me how to, the etiquettes of interviews and different things to look for and just posture and different things like that. Just being able to soak all that knowledge up. And I use that to become who I am today. But like I said, it was just one of those, like, when I started doing it in the beginning, I'm like, people ain't gonna really take me serious. But then as time started going on, people are like, no, people are paying attention.
When you look back, I'm acting like you've been doing this for 50 years. When you look back, what were some of your memorable discussions with athletes that eventually turned into an interview, but just started off, like you said, a discussion, getting to know each other. And the next thing you know, you had that one-on-one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably, and I'm not even trying to gloat with you guys, but I'm probably one of the only reporters that has a one-on-one with Steph Curry.
Right.
You know, just being in the locker room. You know, and I remember we was just sitting there talking, and we was just talking about church. We was just talking about just life in general. He just left Nike to go to Under Armour, and and I was like, hey man, you mind if I just ask you some questions on record? And he's like, let's go. So those are the type of genuine conversations and moments that I appreciate when I look back. Another one for me that really sticks out. My first All-Star game was 2013, and it was in Houston, and that was Paul George's first All-Star game. And me and Paul George, he's one of my favorite players of all time to watch. And when I was in Boston, I used to always go to him for interviews, but Danny Granger was the guy. I always try to make sure I go to the guy that's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, that's another story that's being told in the locker room that nobody's trying to talk about or nobody's going to, figure it out. Everybody wants to run to the All-Star. Why not run to the guy that's, the fifth or sixth guy that could be that guy in a couple of years?
Mm-hmm.
So Paul George, me and him was talking in Boston, and then fast forward to All-Star weekend, and it was his first All-Star weekend, and nobody was sitting there. Nobody was talking to him. So I spent my whole media day, my whole All-Star media day, me and Paul George had a full-blown interview. So it's just stuff like that. Those players remember those moments.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the moments that I try to gravitate towards. And those mean a lot to me. So it's just small little conversations. I've had a couple of players that are like, man, where'd you get those sneakers from? And I'll be like, oh yeah, I got them back in Boston. Da, da, da. And I'll start up conversation too.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I'll listen to what a player's listen to music wise or something like that. You never know what could trigger it and then start something up. But I've had some good one-on-one interviews for sure. And like I said, I've truly been blessed.
That's good.
Do you when you came in, a couple of things. When you came in and started, did you have any specific goals in mind? And do you have any specific goals now?
Yeah, one goal I really have, and I still do have it. Remember how ESPN had like an ESPN New York, ESPN Boston, ESPN LA. I've always wanted to have like a sneak reporter Boston, sneak reporter New York, sneak reporter Minnesota. So I could have reporters that are coming up and be able to give them opportunity to be in my situation. Because it took for somebody to give me that opportunity to take it and run. So I've always wanted to make sure that I keep an eye out for young talent. Especially, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if they're African American, white, black, Hispanic, whatever the case may be. But I always try to make sure I look out for our people no matter what. You know what I'm saying? Just to make sure we're in a good position, to set them up for generational success. So for me, it was just more so, all right, let me make a goal and let me challenge myself to see if I could do that. So now I got writers, all over. I got 2 in Dallas. I got 1 in OKC. I got 1 in Boston. I got 2 in LA. So I'm trying to get it going. But it's been under the wraps now, but we're trying to just keep it going, to get to that point so then I can branch it out to different cities around the country. But that's been a big goal of mine, man. It's just I just want to be able to inspire everybody around the country.
Okay.
Yeah.
You haven't talked about this, but I'd like you to talk about. You started a foundation back in OKC, I believe, that you was working with young people to connect athletics and academics.
Yes, sir.
Through shoes.
Yes, sir.
Talk about that.
Yes, sir. Kicks for Grades, man. Big shout out to my mom. She was on me about it. When I first brought it up, I was like, hey, this is what I want to do. We started it in Boston. We started in 2013. We worked with a couple of schools there. It's all about rewarding these kids because nowadays, with inflation and these kids really can't afford sneakers and different things like that. And growing up, we couldn't afford it like that either. So I used to always get mad when I was getting really good grades, and then I would see kids that are getting terrible grades, and they got the best shoes on. And I'm like, so for me, I was like, you know what, man? When I get older and I get an opportunity, I'm gonna switch this thing. So it's all about just giving back to the leaders of tomorrow. Honestly, when we're both gone, there's gonna be a little kid that was like, you know what, Travis came to my school and talked to me. And that's the thing that matters to me. That it's all about the generational, success moving forward and just being able to help the leaders of tomorrow. So, so when we started it up, it's all about making sure that kids have A's and B's, gotta be ages 8 to 13, and you gotta make sure that you fill out some information. But the biggest thing is, you get that experience, you get to just be able to really push for a goal. I feel like a lot of these young kids nowadays don't have goals. So if you push for that goal, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get that A and B. I want those new Jordans. I want this, I want that. It gives them an initiative, but it also makes them feel like they're being celebrated at the same time. And I just want to be able to give back, and I thought it was one of the best things to do. And if you guys can help me, I would love to find a school out here, to start Kicks for Grades out here too.
Okay.
And I even said that on the news the other day. That's something I really want to do. Like, I want to cement my own legacy in Minnesota as well. You guys are paving the way, but at the same time, like, I want to be able to ride that coattail to be able to start my own legacy here too.
Approximately how many kids you have influenced through your foundation? Ballpark number.
Man, ballpark number. Whew. Man, it's so tough because I've spoken to so many kids throughout the years. I would definitely say it's probably in the close to the thousands.
Okay.
But as far as giving back, whether and the good thing about my foundation is I give them whatever, like, sneakers that, like, whatever they pick. Like, if they want Jordans, if they cost 200, 200. And that's the biggest thing. You know what I'm saying? Just giving them, because you don't want to give them a sneaker and then all of a sudden you give them a sneaker and then the kids are playing, clowning them at school. Oh, look what you got on. It's more so I'm going to give you something where when you got it on, they're like, oh man, I wanted those. So now the narrative's changing. You know what I'm saying? You don't turn it, you're not going to be picked on no more because you got the cool stuff on, and that was always my thing. But yeah, definitely ballpark, it'll probably be close to the thousands as far as talking to kids. Giving back though, we probably given sneakers to definitely over 50 kids or more. You know what I'm saying? Throughout the time, we started real small, 5, then we went 10, 15. I try to level it up every year.
Okay.
So the good thing about it now is a lot of sneaker brands are really watching what I'm doing. So I'm building these relationships. So hopefully I can get one of those brands to be like, you know what, let's gravitate to the Kicks for Grades and really help out. Yeah.
Now we know you love the NBA.
Yeah.
Is there any other sports that you really have a passion for that you enjoy covering and talking about?
NFL. I love the NFL. New England Patriots fan. I don't care what nobody say. I still got a little problem with Tom Brady going to the Bucks. We ain't gonna talk about that right now, but yeah, man, I love all Boston sports, man. It's just we're just a city of champions. No disrespect to Minnesota, but I'm gravitating towards the Timberwolves, the Twins, the Vikings now. You know what I'm saying? So I'm warming up to it now because when I was in OKC, we only had the Thunder.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So now I got some more sport, some more teams to, It helps that you guys are on the NFC though, so I can still represent my Patriots at the same time. So yeah, so we're good. So, but yeah, I love the NFL, man. I could talk NFL all day, stats, all the above, man. It would be a blessing to cover the Vikings too.
Are there any athletes that you haven't covered that you would like to cover?
That's a great question.
Have you ever thought about that?
That's a great question. It would probably be some NFL players, honestly, if I'm going to think about it. I mean, I would just love to have a one-on-one with Patrick Mahomes or something, just pick his brain, Lamar Jackson, I just look at his story, from draft night, just sitting there with his mom, and that's motivational to me. I like motivational stories, so I look for that, something to give me that edge. Because sometimes, having your own business, you get kind of watered down in it, right? Where you're like, all right, man, I'm tired, man. But I look at my mom, I look at my sister, and I look at these different small little motivational clips that I watch and stuff, and it gets me going again. So for me, it would just be like a Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, some players that I would have loved to interview that were in the NBA though, Allen Iverson, Michael Jordan, just to name a few. I really would have loved to, believe it or not, the Dikembe Mutombo. I would have loved to have interviewed him too, just because, like, a lot of people always, make fun of his like no and all that. So just being able to, just get him in his element and actually listen to some of his quotes
Mm-hmm.
from a defensive standpoint, he's one of the best in NBA history too. So,
Mm-hmm.
and he went to Georgetown, so it's like there's a lot of talent that comes with that. So, just a couple of players that I really would have. Yeah.
Now we're in the middle of the NBA playoffs. Your thoughts about just the NBA this year?
Mm-hmm.
It has changed a lot over the years from when I started covering, or even when I started following it. And I don't like it as much as I used to,
Mm.
because I just think that there's too much focus on just one player, or making it around one player, and not talking about the team aspect anymore.
Yeah.
So talk about just how you've seen the NBA change, or hasn't changed, but has gone in a way that you like it or don't like it, whichever you want to prefer.
I mean, we're in the we're in the social media day and age now where these players are their own brands now, right? So you got these players that have their own podcasts. These players they're their own media outlet now. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? So I do like that because freedom of speech. You want to be able to talk about it. Just like Draymond Green does. But for me, as far as the game, I do like how they single out certain players because I like how the NBA has always been a baton passing sport,
Mm-hmm.
right? We've had the Michael Jordan, the Kobe, LeBron's, everybody's getting the baton passed. So I think the biggest thing for me when I'm actually looking at how the talent is being displayed now, I like how they have those faces of the NBA like a Steph Curry. So I do like that. I think your style of basketball finished with the Detroit Pistons when they won that last championship. When you had Ben Wallace and Billups, Rip Hamilton, that was a special team. But I think that now it's more so how can we're going from the marketing standpoint now. You know what I'm saying? Because now the NBA is global. 10, 15 years ago it wasn't global like that. So I think now there's a lot of scoring, there's less defense because you want to sell those tickets.
Mm-hmm.
So I do like the old school where that Detroit Pistons, yeah, bad boys. I like that, because I'm a '80s baby. You know what I'm saying? So I grew up watching MJ and all his struggles. So I do like that, but I feel like the way that they're telling these stories now with the players individually,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a lot bigger than the team aspect. The team aspect's always gonna be there, but the NBA is always gonna be about how can we market that next person that could take us to the next, that next promised land. And I think Anthony Edwards can be that guy.
Yeah.
I believe he has what it takes to be the face of the NBA. And he's proven it, on this run.
Mm-hmm.
If they can get past the hump, and get that championship, I mean, I don't see anything stopping them.
Mm-hmm. We always offer our guests an opportunity to speak to our listeners and our
Mm-hmm.
viewers who are primarily African American, and
Yes, sir.
that's the title of our podcast. We also like to make sure that our stories don't get told as well as it should be, or we don't get spotlighted as well as we like to be.
Mm.
And so that's why we brought you on, because we want that light shine on you. So you spend the last few minutes, you want to just talk about things that you feel passionate about, that you want our community to know about.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest thing, that I always harp on with our community, our, just being black in America is just, we get too comfortable, right? Sometimes you're comfortable with that $14 an hour, right? But why not strive to get to that 17? Why not strive to get to 20? We get so comfortable in our own skin sometimes that we don't want to push to that next level. And for me, I've always wanted to push myself to that next level. Like whether it be, sleepless nights, staying until 2, 3 in the morning when everybody else is already gone in the arena, and the biggest thing is for me, it was just more so how can I create a platform where people see my drive, they see my
Mm-hmm.
hunger, but at the same time, the kids can understand that anything is possible that you're doing, right? And I feel like growing up for me, I saw a lot of liquor stores, around school and stuff like that in our neighborhoods growing up in Boston. And I've always wanted to change that. And that was another reason why I did the Kicks for Grades too, is because I just wanted to make sure that there was a positive output instead of everybody talking about the negative. you know, and it always bothered me growing up. Every Martin Luther King Boulevard always has violence. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it was just one of those things I took personal. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, he had a dream, but at the same time, would he be happy with this dream that we're having right now? You know, so it's more so how can I change that narrative moving forward for the future, for these kids, and for the people that are watching what I'm doing. So I got to make sure I use my platform. That's why you'll never really hear me cuss. I don't do all that. You never really see me drinking. You know, I'm always trying to make sure I set that example, you know, because you never know who's watching you. And every time I leave the house, you know, I represent the Singletons, and that I represent, you know, that family to the fullest. You know, my dad, he's not here with us, but I make sure that every time I walk out that door, I'm representing him. If I cover the NBA Finals, it's for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not about me. You know, and I think the biggest thing I want people to know is it's for my family. It's the legacy. I want to leave a legacy behind. You know, so I was telling my sister, I'm like, you know, the Sneaker Reporter brand, I'm not gonna be here forever. But that doesn't mean that the brand can't keep going. Kicks for Grace can't keep going. You know, I got to pass that down to somebody else, whether it be a cousin, I get kids, whoever the case may be. But I want to make sure that it stays in that lane where we still give minorities an opportunity to grow, have opportunity to be, oh, let me be a writer. I want to do this. I want to be a producer, whatever it has to be. Everybody feel like we got to be an athlete or a rapper or something. It's like you can do anything you want to do. You know what I'm saying? Look at Obama. You know, so just wanted to make sure that, you know, my dream was fulfilled too. You know, I always wanted to play in the NBA. You know, I thought I had enough skill. I still do. You ask me. But I always tell people I still made it. I just made it in a different way. I got my own lane, my own story. So somebody else is gonna have their own story too. So I just want to make sure that I'm being that role model to do the positive thing, do the right thing, and just want to make sure I continue to, you know, sow that seed that, you know, we can do anything we put our mind to. And if we get out of that comfortable state and we really want to go after it, I think anything's possible. So I just look at my story, man. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, you know, I don't feel like I belong sometimes because, you know, all the people we're around. We're around people on TV and millionaires all the time. And sometimes, you know, you don't get comfortable, you know, where it's like, you know, all right, I got to shake it off. But for me now, I feel like I belong. And at that time, I didn't feel like I did. But now when I walk in these arenas, I'm like, this is my arena. You know what I'm saying? So that's the biggest thing, that confidence and not feeling, you know, comfortable. I always want to keep going for that next step, that next drive. So I just want to be able to motivate the next generation to be whatever they want to be. You know, sooner or later, I'm gonna be too old to wear sneakers, and you know, it's just gonna be one of those things where I'm wearing slippers all the time. That I want to be comfortable, but if that day comes, though, I still want to make sure that the legacy of Sneaker Reporter, you know, sneakerreporter.com gets you know, put out there, and then Kicks for Grades. Those are the two biggest things for me. And yeah, I'm just trying to make my dad proud, my family proud, and, you know, trying to make sure that I just make our people proud at the end of the day.
I think they are. Like I said, I had a pleasure meeting you. Remember, if you remember, you didn't know which way to go, and I told you to go up those steps.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes, sir.
and I guess
Yes,
you
sir.
figured out, man.
That was media day. Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Yes, sir.
I
That was
guess
the
you
first day
figured
I was in Minnesota. Yes,
this
sir.
grumpy guy.
Yep. Yep. I remember that. Yep. That was media day. Yep. That was my first day in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Step foot. Yep. Yep. A lot of people don't even know I sacrificed. I took a bus to come here that day.
Wow.
From OKC. No, from Houston.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Houston at the time, and I took a bus, and early morning bus just to get there for media day and stuff like that. You know, I was figuring it out. I was like, man, they finally gave me the access to go to media day. It was last second, but then I'm looking at flights. I'm like, these flights are $1,000. I'm like, I don't know if I could do that. So I'm like, let me figure it out. Did a bus, you know, and ever since then it's just, you know, I'm never gonna look. I'm never gonna stop what I gotta get to. Whatever's meant for me, God's gonna put it there for me, and I'm gonna take it. You know, so I just gotta continue to just keep going for it, and, you know, just stay positive.
That's good.
Yes, sir.
Well, Travis, appreciate you coming in and talking with us, sharing your story with us. We hope that this story be shared with others, and I think your family is proud of you. And
I appreciate that.
and they'll
Yeah.
be watching this. This is Blacklight on Sport. My name is Charles Hallman.
I'm Mitchell McDonald.
And we thank you for being with us and hope to see you very soon.